Dr. Kira Chen lay motionless on her bunk, sweat beading on her pale forehead. The zenith flu had hit her harder than anyone expected. Her breathing came in shallow gasps, and every muscle in her body ached with a deep, bone-grinding pain. She hadn't moved in nearly 12 hours, too weak even to reach for the water bottle on her bedside table. Around her bunk, 3 massive shapes prowled in tight circles. The Vraxian cubs, each already the size of an earth tiger despite being only 6 months old, moved with fluid grace across the metal floor of the research station. Their scales gleamed like polished obsidian in the dim light, and their 6 eyes tracked every shadow, every sound, every potential threat to the human who had raised them from eggs. The largest cub, the one Kira had named Storm, pressed his broad head against her dangling hand. His rumbling purr vibrated through the thin mattress. When she didn't respond, his ears flattened against his skull, and a low, warning growl bubbled from his throat. "It's okay, Storm," Kira whispered, her voice barely audible. "I'm okay." But she wasn't okay, and Storm knew it. The cubs had been restless since she'd collapsed the previous evening. They refused to leave her quarters, refused to eat, and had already driven off 2 concerned colleagues who'd tried to check on her. Outside the door, Dr. Marcus Webb stood with his medical kit, staring at the sealed entrance to Kira's room. The station's intercom crackled to life, and Commander Torres's voice filled the corridor. "Status report, Dr. Webb." Marcus sighed, running a hand through his graying hair. "Still can't get in. Commander, those cubs won't let anyone near her. I tried using the override code, but the moment the door started opening, they positioned themselves in front of it. I've never seen anything like it. They're guarding her like she's their mother." "She practically is their mother," Torres replied. "She's been with them since they hatched. Fed them by hand, slept in their enclosure, taught them everything they know." "I'm aware of her work, Commander. But Dr. Chen needs medical attention. The zenith flu can be fatal if left untreated, especially in humans. We're not adapted to this station's viral strains like the other species here." Through the door's small observation window, Marcus could see Storm's massive head swing toward him. Even through the reinforced glass, the predator's stare sent chills down his spine. The Vraxians were apex predators on their homeworld, capable of taking down prey 3 times their size. And these were just cubs. Adult Vraxians were the size of earth elephants, with jaws that could crush titanium. The entire galaxy had been shocked when Kira Chen had successfully bonded with the 3 cubs. The Vraxian government had sent the eggs as part of a diplomatic exchange, never expecting them to survive in captivity. Vraxians rarely bonded with their own kind, let alone with aliens. They were solitary hunters, aggressive and territorial by nature. But Kira had worked magic. She'd studied every piece of research on Vraxian biology, learned their body language, their vocalizations, their hunting patterns. When the cubs hatched, she was there. She was the first thing they saw, the first voice they heard, the first being to offer them food and safety. The scientific community called it unprecedented. The Vraxian government called it impossible. Kira simply called it patience and respect. Now that bond was preventing her from getting the help she desperately needed. Marcus pressed the intercom button outside her door. "Dr. Chen? Kira? Can you hear me? It's Marcus Webb from Medical. You need treatment." Inside, Kira's eyes fluttered open. She heard Marcus's voice as if from underwater, distant and muffled. She tried to respond, but only a weak cough emerged. Storm immediately pressed closer to her, his warm bulk a comforting weight against her side. The second cub, Cloud, moved to the door. Her scales were lighter than her brother's, with silver streaks that caught the light. She pressed her snout against the door, sniffing loudly, then released a sharp bark that echoed through the quarters. "They're agitated," Marcus muttered into his comm. "Commander, we might need to consider tranquilizing them." "Absolutely not," Torres snapped back. "Do you have any idea what the Vraxian government would do if we harmed those cubs? They're not just animals, Dr. Webb. They're citizens of Vrax Prime. Sentient beings under interstellar law. Tranquilizing them without cause would be assault. Marcus knew she was right, but his medical training screamed at him to help his patient. Then what do you suggest? We can't just leave Dr. Chen in there to die. A new voice crackled over the comm. Try asking permission. Marcus turned to see Dr. Yara Okonkwo, the station's xenopsychologist, walking down the corridor. She was a tall woman with keen eyes that missed nothing. Asking permission, Marcus repeated. They're animals. Correction. They're sentient juveniles who've bonded with Kira, Yara said calmly. I've been studying them since they hatched. Their cognitive development is remarkable. They understand more than we give them credit for. She stepped up to the observation window and pressed her palm against the glass. Storm. Cloud. Shadow. It's Dr. Okonkwo. You remember me, yes? The third cub, Shadow, the smallest and most cautious of the three, lifted his head. His dark eyes fixed on Yara, and his tail twitched with recognition. Good, Yara continued, her voice steady and calm. Your human is sick. You know this. You can smell it on her, can't you? She needs medicine. She needs help. The doctor outside wants to help her get better. Will you let him in to help her? For a long moment, nothing happened. The cubs remained motionless, watching Yara through the glass. Then Storm turned his massive head toward Kira, studying her pale, sweating face. He lowered his snout to her forehead, inhaling her scent, then released a soft whine of distress. Something shifted in the room's atmosphere. Storm looked back at the door, then at his siblings. Some silent communication passed between the three predators. Cloud stepped back from the door, and Shadow moved to the far corner of the room, his posture submissive but alert. Storm remained at Kira's side, but he turned his body toward the door and released a single, sharp bark. Then he sat, ramrod straight, his eyes fixed on the entrance. I think that's permission, Yara said softly. But Marcus, move slowly. Don't make sudden gestures, and whatever you do, don't try to move her without showing them what you're doing first. Marcus swallowed hard and keyed in his access code. The door hissed open, and he stepped into the room with his medical kit held in front of him, both hands visible. The smell of the cubs hit him immediately, a musky, wild scent mixed with the metallic tang of Kira's sick room. Storm's growl was a constant rumble, a warning that hummed in the air. Marcus could feel the predator's eyes tracking his every move. Hey there, Storm, Marcus said softly. I'm just here to help. See? Medicine. He held up a hypo spray, keeping his movements slow and deliberate. This will make her feel better, make her strong again. He approached the bunk carefully, and Storm's growl intensified. Marcus froze, then crouched down, making himself smaller, less threatening. I know you want to protect her. That's good. You're a good boy. But she needs this medicine, okay? Storm's ears twitched, but the growling continued. Marcus realized he needed to do something differently. He set the hypo spray on the floor between himself and the cub, then backed away. See? Not hiding anything. You can check it if you want. To his amazement, Storm leaned forward and sniffed the device, his nostrils flaring. After a moment, the cub looked at Marcus, then at Kira, then back at the doctor. The growling stopped. Marcus took it as permission. He retrieved the hypo spray and moved to Kira's side. Her skin was burning with fever, and her breathing was dangerously shallow. He quickly administered the antiviral medication, then set up a portable IV to combat dehydration. Throughout the entire procedure, Storm watched every movement. When Marcus had to lift Kira's arm to insert the IV, the cub's body tensed, ready to strike. But when Kira didn't cry out or struggle, Storm remained still. There, Marcus said softly, completing the IV setup. That should start bringing her fever down. She'll need monitoring for the next few hours, which means I'll need to come back. Is that acceptable? Storm's response was another single bark, then he laid down beside Kira, his body pressed against hers, as if sharing his warmth. Cloud and Shadow moved closer too, forming a protective triangle around the bunk. Marcus backed toward the door slowly. "Yara, I need you to stay nearby. If her condition changes, I'll need to get back in here quickly." "Understood," Yara replied from the corridor. As Marcus left the room, he couldn't shake the profound experience he'd just witnessed. Those cubs, those sentient, intelligent beings, had made a conscious choice to trust him with their human. They'd understood that Kira needed help, and they'd allowed it, but on their terms. Over the next 2 days, Marcus returned to Kira's quarters every 4 hours. Each time, he went through the same ritual, showing his hands, speaking calmly, requesting permission. Each time, the cubs allowed him entry. They learned to recognize his scent, his voice, his intentions. On the 3rd day, Kira's fever finally broke. She woke to find herself surrounded by 3 anxious predator cubs, their eyes bright with relief. Storm rumbled his deep purr, and Cloud nuzzled against her weakly raised hand. Shadow, brave for once, climbed onto the foot of her bunk and curled up on her legs. "Hey, my babies," Kira whispered, tears streaming down her face. "Thank you for protecting me. Thank you for letting the doctor help." When Marcus came for his final checkup, he found Kira sitting up, weak but clearly recovering. Storm was still at her side, but his posture was relaxed, content. The crisis had passed. "Dr. Chen," Marcus said, shaking his head in wonder, "what you've accomplished with these cubs, it's extraordinary. They understood you needed help. They made a rational decision to allow me to treat you. Do you realize what that means?" Kira smiled, running her hand over Storm's scales. "It means that bonds can form between any species if you approach with patience, respect, and love. Humans have a gift, Dr. Webb. We can connect with almost anyone, anything. We just have to be willing to see them as equals, not as lesser beings." Marcus nodded slowly. "The scientific papers from this will be groundbreaking. The Vraxian government will want to know how you did it." "I didn't do anything special," Kira replied. "I just loved them. I respected their nature, their instincts, their intelligence. Humans have been bonding with predators since we first domesticated wolves thousands of years ago. These cubs are no different. They needed someone to show them that not all aliens are threats, that some of us can be family." Storm's purr deepened, and he rested his massive head on Kira's lap. Outside the observation window, Commander Torres stood with Yara and several other crew members, watching the scene in silent awe. "Humanity, fuck yeah," Torres whispered to herself. Because in a galaxy full of species that conquered through strength, intelligence or technology, humans had found a different path. They conquered through connection, through their impossible ability to form bonds with even the most dangerous predators. They conquered through love, and sometimes that was the most powerful force in the universe.